Hey now, we are getting over, and I am the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, here to lead you through these hard times. With a special WWE edition of your favorite professional wrestling podcast. That's right, Getting Over is back once again, and it is still Monday night, just moments after Raw's debut on Netflix went off the air. The Silver King and Vintage Chris Vanini are here to break down everything that happened on this 3+ hour debut episode of Monday Night Raw on a streaming service off of cable television for the first time in 26 years. We have an absolutely loaded show, as is always the case here. So off the top, allow me to remind you that the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast
is all about the five.
So please, folks,
stop being marks for yourselves and go back to being a mark for me.
Head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we will read it live right here on the show. And we did recently get a new 5-star review from Rise of the Phoenix 79. Who better than Getting Over? Nobody. Found this podcast a little before WrestleMania 39. Been hooked ever since. These guys give such good insight and reviews on everything professional wrestling. I have listened to other wrestling podcasts, and they can not be compared to the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. If you haven't listened, then you better wake up and listen to these guys. They are the best thing going right now. Acknowledge them. Rise of the Phoenix 79, we thank you for that 5-star review, and we acknowledge you.
Acknowledge.
Acknowledge.
Big acknowledgement right there.
Acknowledge.
Also, do not forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
and I hope you do as well, $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Over head. Just visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You will get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major TV show, and exclusive news analysis posts. Every week we posted one of them Monday before the Raw on Netflix, which included a lot of information before that show went on the air. Again, you can get all of that at buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Now, before we fully get into this show, I just wanted to remind all of you how deep the catalog is here at the Getting Over Wrestling Podcast. We are in the midst of a run that spans 12 days with 8 episodes during that stretch. If you are listening to this show and you end up at some point wondering, Silver King Vintage, why aren't you guys talking about SmackDown at all? That's because we already did. We published a special WWE SmackDown instant analysis for the first 3-hour edition of SmackDown. We published that on Friday as soon as that show went off the air. It is the latest episode in our podcast feed. So after you finish listening to this, make sure you go back and listen to that. Also last week, we had your 2024 year in review where we broke down the entire year, day by day, from January 1st to December 31st, one of your favorite episodes that we create every year. It is out and live waiting for your ear holes. And this week, on Wednesday, January 8th, we will have the 2024 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
Voting is now closed. The winners have been determined. All that is left is for the Silver King and Vintage to create the podcast for you. That is coming up sometime Tuesday and Wednesday. The show will be out for you Wednesday. We hope no later than noon Eastern, possibly a little bit later in the day, depending how our schedules unfold. But keep your ear holes open for the 2024 Getting Over Awards, aka
The Meaties.
Now, you've already kind of heard Vintage Chris Vanini twice, so let's not waste any time. We are going to break down everything that happened across Raw Monday night on Netflix.
But I'm afraid I've got some news.
And much of this does directly relate to Raw on Netflix and WWE's television deals. Chris, in the latest edition of WWE not being smart enough to get out of its own way, same as what happened Friday with the Royal Rumble in Saudi Arabia decision that was leaked Friday, announced Monday. WWE's first major announcement the morning of its epic debut on Netflix is that it has signed a multi-year partnership with Hulk Hogan's Real American Beer, and it's become a minority owner in the company. This included a ring mat placement on every episode of Raw, and one could assume continued further planned appearances by Hogan in WWE. Obviously, there was one Monday night. If you're listening to this show, chances are you've already heard about it. My take on this was simple. TKO, it's okay to leave a couple dollars on the table now and then. That's actually an interesting statement coming from me because I believe WWE got vastly undervalued on the Netflix deal and the CW deal for NXT. So I guess when it comes to media rights, they're willing to leave money on the table, but for sponsorships, they'll just take whatever they can get. I understand that Hogan and WWE are inexorably linked, but he has been booed the last 3 to 5 times he's appeared on WWE TV, to the point they've actually canceled appearances where they plan to use him on other occasions due to fan response. But now they partner with him and get paid so little for it that it requires them taking a minority share of a tiny beer company just to get the deal done. Just like with Woo Energy and Ric Flair with AEW, this was dumbass shit. And guess what predictably happened? Hogan came out at 10:30 p.m. Eastern before the main event with Jimmy Hart waving an American flag behind him. At least he got a payday. Michael Cole tried to put him over as being the reason that WWE exists. Hogan was roundly and loudly booed upon his entrance and throughout his entire promo as he tried to promote his stupid beer and Raw on Netflix. Even as he tried to get cheap pops by mentioning Macho Man and Andre the Giant. It was so cathartic seeing this. That's what WWE and he deserved. He got more heat than anyone else on the entire show. But it wasn't heel heat. It was get the fuck off my television heat, for real. This was the literal definition, Chris, of an unforced error. Completely foreseeable, completely avoidable. No matter how many improvements WWE makes to its product, its presentation, even its PR, they will always go and stick their head in the sand and do dumb shit like this.
Off is the direction you can fuck.
Yeah, look, like, we won't linger on this, but it was one of the most noteworthy things coming out of the show, and it is news because they're a sponsor on the mat, which we'll get to. I just like, what did you expect to happen? You're in Los Angeles.
It would have happened in 75% of the cities.
I know, but he walked
maybe
off
more
of his plane in a MAGA Powers shirt.
Right.
At a time when WWE is very much staying out of politics and everything that has to do with it, even though Linda McMahon is going to be in the
right.
Cabinet again. And so, like, of all places, like, I do think you could have taken him to some places and he wouldn't have gotten booed. My dad thinks
Birmingham, Alabama, maybe. Sure.
My dad thinks it's cool he was at the Republican National Convention. A lot of people do. We're not getting into the politics of
We're
this,
not.
but it's partly that from certain people, many of whom live in Los Angeles. It's the racist stuff that he said a long time ago, and the general sense from him that he's trying to just pretend none of this stuff like happens, and he's just always moving on to the next thing to promote. I assume the beer must be doing well for them to take a minority stake in it. I mean, like,
who the fuck knows?
My dad has texted me about the beer or whatever he saw it at the store or whatever like that. So, like, there is a collection of people who are into it. That's the only reason I can think to do such a strange partnership. But yeah, like, what are you doing? Like, what did you really think he was gonna come out and get cheered? And if you did, who the hell made that decision?
It's one thing to do the partnership and have him just be around and, like, you know, use him for press material and shit. It's another to bring him out in front of a live crowd. And I understand what you're saying in Los Angeles. Los Angeles was literally the worst place to do it. Like the worst possible place to do it. But 75 to 85% of audiences would have reacted almost exactly the same. And the other 25 to 15%, I don't necessarily know that he would get cheered if he was in, you know, Alabama or South Carolina or any of these other states. And this isn't a political thing. He is a racist. Hulk Hogan is a racist, noted, documented. Has not apologized. I mean, he's apologized for it, but not in a real way, right? He's gone and said other stuff. Yeah. So no matter what you think about politics, and we try not to get political on this show, we share our opinions about certain things, but we don't get into all the details of all that type of stuff. No matter what you think about that, he is a bad person. He got booed for being a bad person, not because of anything else. Maybe for some it was because of other stuff, but primarily it's for all the reasons he was booed years before any of that happened. It was because he is a racist, and WWE just put him on their television like, yeah, no, it'll be fine. No, it wasn't fine. You guys fucked up. And guess what? Hogan is planned, I'll tell you this right now, to be a significant part of the second Saturday night's main event show. Hopefully WWE now rethinks that decision. Fans will not be changing their opinions.
I think they will.
Let me tell you this. If TKO thinks that the WWE audience, which actually does, and again, we're not getting political, but it does lean blue, a lot heavier than the UFC audience, which leans heavily red. If TKO thinks those audiences can be catered to the same way, they are in for a rude awakening. And hopefully this told them that.
Yeah, I agree.
2 super quick items coming out of SmackDown after I got a chance to rewatch some of it. Tiffany Stratton's gear for her title win was inspired by Sabrina Carpenter. And to that end, if the WWE Women's title does not end up with a pink strap, I'm not even sure what they are doing at this point. They would sell tons of those. And also just talking about the women's title, Nia Jax had a really strong title run. We discussed the match and everything that happened on our last WWE show, Chris, but I felt like we missed that. Like we didn't necessarily give her flowers. She deserves her flowers. Stratton got a massive pop when she cashed in and won, and she got a massive pop on Raw Monday night. One of the loudest pops out of anyone, including celebrities in the crowd.
Yep, I'm sure they will. They have to do a pink belt. They did the
They
pink Money in the Bank briefcase, so that all works. And yeah, I mean, I had said I think Nia Jax is most improved wrestler of the year in the award that doesn't exist in the meaties. She's been
do you
great,
think we need to
and
do
I think
that?
That was a good move.
Do you think we need to add that award for next year, like most improved?
I'm the more I think about it, the more I think you can do a difference between breakout and most improved.
Breakout is popularity, not quality.
Similar as to how feud and angle can be different.
And we have those separated. Yeah, I think between NXT, between young talent and AEW, wrestlers in WWE naturally developing as they get older or training, whatever the case, I do think there's a case for most improved wrestler. So we'll add that to the 2025 Getting Over Awards, aka
the meaties.
Raw on Netflix did mark the largest arena gate in the history of WWE. You and I don't necessarily care that much about it, but it is notable.
No, not at all.
Yeah, but it is notable, so I just wanted to say that. There were a lot of celebrities.
Shout out to all those people who cheered all the money they gave WWE.
Yeah.
Good job.
Yeah, good for you. There were a ton of celebrities at Raw. Some of the biggest pops were actually from Macaulay Culkin and Danielle Fishel. Shout out to Topanga. But most notable to me of everyone, Chris, that we saw on TV or on the red carpet before TV was Nikki Bella, who had been on the outs with WWE the last 2 years, no longer using the Bella name. She was there, called Nikki Bella. It was great to see her happy, honored by fans. She has gone through a rough couple of months. You can Google it if you want to find out what I'm talking about. So I think it was nice for her to kind of be embraced by WWE again, and probably nice for WWE for her to embrace them again.
Yeah, no, that was great. I mean, she is a legend in many ways. And yes, she's had a very tough couple of months personally. And so hope she's doing better and everything. So it's good to see her.
Yeah. And lastly, The Rock will be on NXT tomorrow night. Yes, you heard this correct. The Rock will be live on NXT in Los Angeles. Ava, his daughter, the GM on screen of NXT, was with him at the Golden Globes on Saturday night, which was wild on its own. Just seeing Ava with all those celebrities, and he's clearly in the area for the week, but that is still incredible to say. The Rock on NXT. So I just wanted to point that out. Chris, it is now time for us to get into the debut of WWE Monday Night Raw on Netflix. We're going to do this somewhat instant analysis style, and I guess technically, because this is the only real segment on this show, it is time for us to slide into the main event.
This is the main event.
Now, we're going to go match by match, segment by segment, but I know you and I both want to discuss the production and the aesthetics of this show. First off, and really most important to me, the picture quality was outstanding. I do not believe it was in 4K, which I badly want, and I really don't see a reason why WWE cannot do it, given Netflix can probably help with the cameras and the production, but it was excellent 1080p quality, 0 buffering. Sound was great, better than Peacock, apples to apples. So I just wanted to say that right up front.
Yeah, I had 0 issues with the stream, just like I didn't have any issues for the NFL games, although I know some people did. It felt like they used those mirrorless cameras, but perhaps turned down the blur
Yeah.
that you sometimes get in the background, and we liked when they were doing that a number of years ago. So in terms of the Netflix side of it, had no issues, could pull it up on my computer really easy. It's like a little thing,
Mhm.
but it's way easier to take screenshots on Netflix than it is for Peacock. And that's like a big deal, like in the social media world.
Sure.
'Cause Peacock, you can't pause and then the stuff goes away. It's very annoying. So from a usability standpoint, yeah, I thought it was much easier than Peacock when it comes to an actual show.
The only criticism I really had, a little bit overuse of drones and skycams.
I think there was an overuse of a lot of things that is not going to be the norm moving forward.
I agree with that.
I do think they went over the top with a lot of
Yeah, I agree. And we'll circle back to that. The cold open Paul Levesque voiceover video package was immense. As great an indication as ever that this is a new era. They use shoot terms throughout this entire video package. And then once that ended and the curtains around the ring dropped, of course it was Triple H as the first one on that show. Chris, I believe we had that. Triple H, first person who spoke, Raw on Netflix, not John Cena, Cody Rhodes, The Rock, any of these guys. Paul Levesque, Triple H. He did get the crowd fired up. You knew it was going to be him once we talked it through. And of course it was.
So, a couple things on this intro. One, they did have a Vince quote in there when he says the boyhood dream has come true about Shawn Michaels. They did have an image of Brock Lesnar in there. Overall, I liked the video in general. I thought it was really well done. They kind of told the story of wrestling, what wrestling is. But there was such an emphasis on like letting us know that this is fake. And I didn't.
Yeah, I know.
I don't like using heel and shoot
Agreed.
and work and babyface and literally showing us a typewriter to tell us that, hey, this is all scripted when you're telling us the entire thing is the story. And that feeling gets into some other things that happen on the show. But I was like, that's a bit much, man. Like, we all know it's fake.
Mhm.
You don't need to like tell us it's fake.
The entire first 30 minutes of this show, and we will talk about it like you just previewed in a moment. The entire first 30 minutes of this show was, hey, everyone, this is a scripted sports entertainment product. We're really excited to be on Netflix. And it's just like...
It's not canon, basically.
Yeah, it's like, I want Raw on Netflix. I don't want a press conference about Raw on Netflix. And that's what the first 30 minutes felt like. Like a press event.
Yeah. Yes, we'll get it. Yeah, we'll get into what.
We'll talk about it.
But it was a very weird start.
The cylindrical mic flags not only remained, they seemed even tinier in the hands of like a wrestler. Like when Triple H had it in his hand compared to Michael Cole, this thing looked minuscule.
Well, and his hand covered up Raw,
right?
Because his hand was on the cylindrical part.
Because it doesn't do what it's supposed to do, which is show. Even when you look at it, you only see like 1.5 letters at a time because it's round. So. It's such a failure. I don't know. By the way, the logo Raw, it is literally a rectangle. And instead of using the triangle flags or the square, they're using a cylinder. It's ridiculous. The announce table was a remixed version of what WWE normally uses. I thought it was slightly better looking, not that much different, but I appreciated that it seemed modernized.
It looked like something that I didn't know if they'd want to break it or not. Like, it looked like a legitimate table.
It looked more expensive.
I need to get a better look. Yeah, I need to get, like there were lights on it and stuff, I think, and what looked like glass on the top. I wasn't quite sure.
That shiny black border.
Look.
Yeah, I was wondering what that was. It's very curious.
Yeah, I don't know.
Now, the mat for Raw was black, not red, not white or light blue like it should be, or not the SmackDown dark blue either, obviously. So it being black was a huge positive. It provided a different look. I didn't mind that, but it was absolutely covered in ads. Some not problematic. Others, like Hogan's Beer, Riyadh season, were obviously greater eyesores. Perhaps worst of all is that all the ads were in full color on top of a black mat as opposed to being outlines, which would have been far more palatable. The ring ropes also were white as expected. Given the main logo is white, I'd have loved to see how red ropes with a black mat would have worked. I think they should make that change. What are your thoughts on the ring?
I thought it looked terrible, man. Like the ads, like we went from what? We had the one Prime ad for pay-per-views, and then we had a little Prime on the turnbuckles and a couple of things in the corner, to just everything everywhere all at once. And it was extremely blah. The different colors. It looked like the ring is littered with stuff.
Yeah.
Like when we get into the tribal combat match, like there's a chair in there, and it looked like there was like 50 different things in the ring trying to figure out what was what. Oh, nope, that's an ad. That's not a this. I hate it in every way possible. I don't even like the black mat, honestly. And it also makes the color stick out more. It would be so much easier if it was a white mat with black ads,
yes,
the way they did the Prime stuff. Like
exactly.
that is much, it's much easier on the eyes. But at the point of the ads, I know it's for us to see them. Yeah. And I'm not going to, I hate that we're getting ads in so many different things in sports now. And this is yet another one. Do I like this more? I think it made me like the blue SmackDown mat more. I'll say that.
Well, and when I say they, I don't mean WWE, I mean sports at large, are trying to flood and desensitize us with ads so they can put them every single place possible, and like we won't complain about it. I agree that it's an eyesore being all over the mat, as you and I have both said now. Making them white or gray ads on a black mat, or using a white or light blue mat and having them be dark ads, far better, right? Softer on the eyes, easier to kind of ignore, but the point is for people to see them. My bigger issue is not having the ads there. I understand it. I accepted that this was a reality that was going to happen. It was your point that when you have a match where you're looking at the mat, it's problematic. During the Rhea Ripley, Liv Morgan match and CM Punk, Seth Rollins, I mostly didn't notice the ads. I mean, I knew they were there, but it was second to mind. It wasn't even something I was thinking about. But during Tribal Combat, when there was a table and a chair and a bunch of stuff happening all on the mat, you cannot help but see them. And you don't say, oh my God, that's, I'm trying to think of what ad was there. Fortnite, right. That's Fortnite. I'm going to go play Fortnite. You're like, oh, why is there an ad right in the middle next to the table here? It's very distracting. So it's a fail, but for me, an understandable fail. Like I said, sports in totality, they are trying to desensitize us to ads. They're all over jerseys now. They're all over fields. They always have been. It's only going to get worse, not just in WWE, but everywhere. But we knew that this was an inevitability when TKO took over, and we're now seeing that come to fruition.
It's just wild to go from like none on SmackDown to everything on Raw. Right. It's a lot. It was too much. Also, Fortnite, if you want to sponsor this pod, please reach out to gettingoverpod@gmail.com.
Are you a Fortnite player?
No, but they have a lot of money.
Fortnite, if you'd like to sponsor the Getting Over Wrestling podcast, yes, you can hit us up. Gettingoverpod@gmail.com. We will take all of your money. Speaking of controversial changes, the referees wore a dark gray polo shirt with 2 black stripes down the left side. It did help them blend into the background a little bit more. I actually think to a degree that was positive. But as RJ at R_J_B_3 tweeted us, I believe longtime listener, first time respondent, he said they look like busboys from Fridays. They also look like McDonald's workers. This was the clearest example for me, Chris, of change for the sake of change. I hope they come to their senses and just go back to normal sooner than later. I don't hate it as much as like the ring or the mic flags or some other stuff, the colored ads on the mat, really. But I don't necessarily like it either. I could totally get used to it, though.
Yeah, of the things I didn't like, this is lower on the list than Hulk Hogan and the mat. It just looked weird. Mm-hmm. It didn't look like a referee. I don't see the point of it.
Yeah.
You know, like they just look like a person. And so I didn't see any, I don't hate it. I don't really care that much, but I didn't see any benefit of it. I'm not like, oh man, that looks pretty good. Compare that to what we got on Saturday night's main event. And you're like, oh, right. There's like a gravitas to like the bow tie.
The bow, and the long sleeves.
If you're going to have them be referees, make them feel like referees, you know? Like, I don't know.
No, I agree. I think they went in the totally wrong direction to try to modernize it. It's like when I want to say, and maybe my memory is shot, I want to say the NFL paid, and this is even funnier in hindsight, like P. Diddy to redesign the uniforms, the referee uniforms, like Sean John, and they looked like total dog shit. And it lasted a couple of years. I'm like, all right, this isn't going to work. And they got rid of him and went back to what they have now, which is like a modernization of the old referee uniforms. They just did it just to do it, to like seem cool and hip and modern. WWE, the referee uniforms didn't need to change. They're referees. Like it's fine. You know,
I mean, just in general, I'd love to, commentary sometimes will tell us the name of the officials again, which is good. I mean, back in the Attitude Era, like we knew who all the officials were, and that was kind of they were characters in your show.
Mm-hmm.
And for so long, WWE has tried to like make you think they're barely even there. And I don't know, I will say, after I went on a rant on our New Year's resolutions about making shirts that look like regular shirts instead of weird wrestling t-shirts, this does look like a shirt that, like, a WWE person might wear out in public. So maybe they
but that's not the point of it. It's a referee.
I know it's not the point of it. I just want to do
they
it.
They look like bowlers. It looked like a shirt you would wear to the bowling alley.
Yeah, bowling's a good example.
What do they do? Like, why would they do that? All right, those are some negatives here. Let me talk about some positives. The show graphics and the match graphics, like for next week, the moving match graphics were incredible. First of all, they're moving, like I just said, which is awesome, but they're super sharp and clean looking. And the aesthetic for this Raw overall, a little bit more white than usual, but still plenty of red and just sharp lines, everything clean. I did love it.
Yeah, it looked, the ones they showed during the show looked better. The Punk Rollins ones on the graphics, the lighting wasn't great. They looked really pale.
I meant the ones for next week, but yes.
I the
agree
ones
with
for
you
next
on
week look great.
Yeah.
Yeah, everything for next week looked great. So it's a positive. I like it. We love moving graphics.
Regarding commercials, it's likely that this will change for future episodes. I did try to keep track for the debut. So this is how the show opened. And I did lose count in the middle because so much stuff happened in succession that I just was like, you know what? The timing of these commercials doesn't matter. I have to get ready for the show. But this is how it went. 30 minutes TV, 3 minutes commercial, 4 minutes, 3 minutes commercial, 19 minutes, 5 minutes commercial, 17 minutes, 3 minutes commercial, 8 minutes, 3 minutes commercial, 15 minutes. That's when I stopped. The point was there was only one short spurt of television, that 1 4-minute start of the tribal combat match in the entire first 2 hours of this program. That is a massive improvement. Also, all but one of those commercial breaks was under 3 minutes and 30 seconds. And when you watch on cable TV, the breaks are usually 3:30 to 4 minutes. So they were all shorter, except for one. And the time that you got to actually watch the product was much longer on average between them. Again, may change next week. I'll do my best to kind of keep track and see how it plays. But even though there were plenty of commercials, which you are naturally going to get in a 3-hour show, it did legitimately seem to be reduced with more action between breaks.
I'm glad you timed it because watching it, it did just feel shorter, just naturally.
The breaks or the time on TV?
The commercial breaks.
Yes, they were. They were all shorter.
They felt shorter. So that's good. And Triple H had alluded to in some interviews that they probably would be. So that's good. All of the breaks felt purposeful.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't feel like, we got to cram something in here, go to commercial, and we'll be back. And just, they never felt rushed.
Mm-hmm.
And that is the benefit we expected of being on Netflix and not being stuck to a specific time with television. So as it relates to commercials, that was great. I know the international audience, I think, didn't get commercials. They
Correct.
got like interviews and packages and stuff, which would be awesome. I'd love that. Maybe I need to get a VPN or something. But
unfortunately, Netflix really cracks down on VPNs, and if you get caught, they'll ban your IP. So,
really? Okay, good.
Yeah,
to know.
no. So I looked as soon as I heard that it was without commercials. I started looking into it, and I was like, "Oh my god, I got to finally get a VPN. Like this makes all the sense." But let me tell you something great, and I'll let you continue after this. You can start Raw from the beginning after it goes live, and you can fast forward through the commercials. So if you're not someone who has to watch it live like I do and like you do many times, if you want to start 30 minutes late, you can fast forward through the commercials.
Well, so that's the interesting because I do have the ad tier of Netflix through T-Mobile.
That might be different.
And when you get those ads, normally the timer pops up,
Yeah.
and it's 15 to 30 seconds ads. But I noticed during this broadcast, that wasn't the case. It was just literally those are ads that are programmed as part of the broadcast. So I was like, I bet you can skip these. And I'm glad it's good to know that you can.
It's possible on the ad tier that you can't. I mean, I just don't know. I can't answer that. But I have like the premium tier. I have like a secondary account from a friend. I was going to pay for Netflix in its totality. And I was able to, I was like mid-show, I was like, you know what? Let me see what functionality this has. Able to start from the beginning and play. And by the way, as soon as it goes off the air, you can also just play and it'll start from the beginning. So it is, forget like DVR concerns and all that. You can play it right away. Now, certainly it's going to be a question. How long will all of these episodes stay on Netflix? I don't think we're going to know that until we actually like look 2 months from now and see if the January 6th episode is still there. But it seems like this will not be that big of an issue. I cannot tell you how many times I asked Netflix these questions, and the PR people there were generally good and helpful and gave me a bunch of answers to other stuff, and other people I spoke to that are not PR at Netflix gave me a lot of other answers that we reported on buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. I could not get the answer to these questions. So it was the number one thing I was curious about going in. The fact that you can start from beginning while live, awesome. The fact that you can fast forward through commercials, also awesome. Also, there was no theme song or bumper song for Raw. At one point coming back from commercial break, Across the Nation was played in the arena, the old Raw theme. But given how much pomp and circumstance was used during this show, not introducing a song I thought was super notable. I guess it could be that Travis Scott song, but it was not said to be, nor was it made apparent that that was the song or anything else was the song. So going into next week, I guess we'll find out if there's a Raw theme.
It's my understanding, and I'd heard it in Reddit places, that Travis Scott had the theme, but I wasn't sure if it was a new song or if it was that one that we've all heard a billion times for the WrestleMania commercial that is already very annoying to me. My guess is it's that, but I guess we don't know for sure. It was interesting to not do an actual intro since they did the whole thing we just talked about.
And they always make such a big deal about it. On their debut SmackDown in October, they did a huge deal about Cardi B having the song and all that. They just ignored it the entire episode.
Megan Thee Stallion.
Oh, yeah. I'm sorry. Megan Thee Stallion, right. Cardi B's a fan, but Megan Thee Stallion got the song, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. Okay, so that's enough bullshit, I guess. Let's go ahead and talk about what actually happened on Raw. The Rock entered for the first real segment, Raw on Netflix. The planned delay leading to his entrance hitting generated a legitimately explosive pop. And I will give Rock credit for one thing. When he points to the goosebumps of his arm and slaps them, Chris, he's not bullshitting. He was covered in goosebumps. And he feels and feeds off that electricity, even if some want to criticize him for this or that. When it comes to that shit, he is honest and truthful every single time. And when he turned around and saw all the fans above the Titantron, he must have been head to toe in goosebumps. That was a moment. Him turning around and just looking at the fans and being like, holy shit, this place is sold out. That was really cool.
That was awesome camera work because that was in front of what I believe is the wall in the stadium, which is just straight all the way up to the top, and the camera got low, and you could the way he lifted his arm. Unbelievable production of that shot right there. And I guess that's one other thing I didn't really mention in terms of the production of the show. The Intuit Dome where the stadium was, looks incredible.
Dude, it is sick.
Like it looks like an unbelievable. It looks like a stadium in arena form, essentially. With the ribbon and everything like that. And I think WWE went all out on the production for this show, but a lot of that seemed specific to what you can do in the Intuit Dome.
Absolutely.
With a lot of things, including all the lights on the chairs and stuff like that. So I'm not expecting it to look exactly like that every week, which is not necessarily a bad thing. But one of my takeaways from this whole show was like, wow, that arena looks pretty awesome.
The arena looks incredible. You're right that a more toned down version will be natural in different arenas and probably appreciated because this was a little bit over the top. WWE gave up their exclusivity with the Staples Center, the former Staples Center, the crypto arena now. They gave up their exclusivity there, which is why AEW was able to run a show there in order to do Intuit Dome. And as great as crypto might be, and I can understand if WWE runs that here and there, this should be their Los Angeles home. And I don't mean like this should be their Barclays Center to Madison Square Garden. This should be their Madison Square Garden in Los Angeles. It is perfect for WWE.
Yeah, it's out in Inglewood. I went by it when it was under construction a couple years ago at the national championship game for
Mhm.
football. So it's a bit of a hike, but they did a good job with it, man. Looks awesome.
Inglewood, always up to no good. So Rock did come out with the People's Championship, which he handed to his family ringside before entering the ring. He dropped bullshit right away. And I actually think when he walked up to Pat McAfee, one of them said fuck, and it went right through. I'm not 100% sure.
I think it got bleeped because my brother texted me about that too. He's like, I think The Rock just dropped an F-bomb, but it was not bleeped, but they didn't air.
Like, I think one of them was like, let's fucking do this or something like that.
Yeah.
And that was crazy. He shouted out, Rock did, the Netflix executives and the man who's been carrying WWE, Cody Rhodes. He said he's carried WWE on its back and it's been under his wing for the last year. Cody was sitting front row in a suit with the WWE Championship. Rock jokingly told him to tell Mama Rhodes The Rock says hello. I truly thought when he was talking about someone carrying WWE that he was going to put over Triple H here. I'm surprised he did not in that moment or at all. And I'm also surprised, Chris, that they completely broke kayfabe to do the thing with Cody when it was unnecessary. I mean, they could have involved Cody, and they did involve Cody later in the show, and gotten him a big pop and maybe even had him cut a promo. But to do it this way just didn't feel needed at all.
Yeah, outside of the intro, this kind of sucked. This was corporate Rock, but the corporate Rock we don't like.
Right.
This was him pitching all his stuff, talking about the products he has, shouting at the executives, telling the crowd how much money they spend on the WWE show, breaking kayfabe with Cody, kissing babies and shaking hands and doing all that stuff, which was very annoying because what made The Rock so incredible when he came back and pivoted around WrestleMania was that he went back to doing the wrestling thing. And we hadn't seen him do that in a long time. This was The Rock we used to get, which was just come out, play the hits, talk about some history that's being made, and that's it. And I really, really don't like the Cody stuff. Like, you didn't need to do that, man. Like, you're kind of implying that you guys are kind of done, even though the last time we saw The Rock, he said he was going to come for Cody,
right?
And switch belts and all that stuff, and they handed him the thing,
the Rolex. He gave him the Rolex back, and after WrestleMania, he's like, "We're not done." Then he came out at Bad Blood, and he pointed at him and Reigns, or he did the 3-2-1.
Yeah, like you don't need to do that. Like, I know in this opening segment where everybody's watching, you want Cody Rhodes to get his flowers in some moment, but there was another way to do it. Have Michael Cole do it during.
No, he could have put over Paul Levesque for carrying WWE on his back and changing the tone and tenor of the company, and then looked at Cody and said, "Cody, I've had a great year as champion. You deserved it," and then just moved on. That's all you had to do. Recognize game, and then keep stepping. So
or just say you've had a great year, crowd cheers and said, "But we're not done yet. Tell Mama Rhodes I said hi." And that's it.
Right. Even if you smile when you say that, totally
to your point,
fine.
when you said carried the company, because The Rock says someone I spilled a lot of blood with. My thought was Triple H as well.
Yeah, he goes town to town. I'm like, well, you did it with Triple H town to town. You did it with Cody in two towns. Yeah. 2 towns with Cody, he did that.
So again, to me, this whole thing was not canon, essentially.
Well, there's more. So Rock also mentioned Roman Reigns, saying he's the tribal chief and the original tribal chief, but in their culture, you got to defend it or something like that. Then he went over and hugged Cody, and then he went to sit with his family on the other side of the announce table in the front row. Now, look, the energy for this segment, Chris, was high, and the crowd popped huge for Rock. I was definitely surprised, though, that WWE spent the first 20 minutes of Raw breaking kayfabe. Now, perhaps that spoke to Rock not having an immediate feud for this WrestleMania, because it obviously, if he was going to have one, would involve either Cody or Roman. But man, I would love if he had done all the kiss-ass Ted Sarando slurping, only to turn on the final boss and talk shit about Roman and Cody. The fans seemed primed to get into the kayfabe of it all, but he just didn't deliver it. I get that this was Dwayne Johnson, not the final boss in this segment, but he came out to the final boss music, and he was dressed like the final boss, and he was carrying the People's Championship. So that was the expectation. Now, all of that said, I did not take this as a retconning of storylines. Even though it was odd to do it this way, WWE can easily circle back to any feud they want with the final boss, whether for this WrestleMania, 3.5 months away, by the way, plenty of time, or obviously even easier, next year's WrestleMania. Anyone suggesting this squashed all potential storylines, particularly when it comes to Roman, is overreacting. Now, you can argue it made doing a Cody feud more difficult, but the Cody feud doesn't necessarily need to continue. With Roman, the original story, when Rock came back, was just showed up. He wanted to have the Samoan match. He didn't challenge his role as tribal chief or anything like that. He just said, we need to determine the true leader of the family. You can get back to that literally at any point you want. Nothing he said here mattered to that end.
I mean, you can do the Cody thing too if Cody's still the champion. I mean,
you could come back to Cody too. Yeah.
Yeah. To me, it didn't retcon anything or end anything. To me, it just wasn't canon. Like, we're just not counting it, essentially. I did come away from this thinking The Rock's probably not wrestling at WrestleMania this year, which is weird because he posted on social media that video. If you haven't seen it, it's on the Getting Over Twitter account too, of The Rock explaining the High Chief moniker and what it means to him and everything that goes behind it and stuff that I didn't even know. And I watched that video and you sent it to me. I texted you and I was like, well, we're doing Rock Roman at WrestleMania this year. And then that whole intro, I was like, I guess we're not. It didn't seem like a guy who was ready to get back into wrestling. And Rock, you're never going to fully know his schedule because of everything he's doing. But the fact that he was, doing the kayfabe breaking corporate shtick didn't feel like he was in wrestling mode.
I just wish he had come out in a suit then, if that was the case.
Right, he dressed up like The Rock. He dressed up like heel Rock.
He dressed up like Final Boss. If he had come out in a suit, if he had come out what he wore at the Golden Globes or a facsimile of that, then I would have said, okay, this is Dwayne Johnson.
Yeah, and with those Tony Stark looking sunglasses too.
He loves those shits. It's unbelievable. All right, let's get to the opening match. Roman Reigns, Solo Sikoa, Tribal Combat. First, the good news. Fans chanted, fuck you, Solo. There wasn't even a consideration of a crowd bleep. That's all we need. We don't need cursing from wrestlers. We just need the crowd not to be bleeped. Now the bad news. Sikoa's hair looked awful. Whoever lined him up and dyed the sides of his hair dark brown, you went way overboard. Also, both guys wore entirely black bottoms, coupled with the black ring and the black graphics and the gray referee shirt. It was just all darkness. WWE is usually great about ensuring that doesn't happen, but it was extremely odd that no one took care of that in this situation.
That is why the mat is bright.
It's one of the reasons so many people wear black.
All the colors stand out. So many wrestlers wear dark. Like, you couldn't. It was so terribly visually, and to start it with this match that made everything bad about the mat stand out. That being one of them.
Totally agree.
Also, it made Roman's shoes stand out a lot more, which the shoes were a bit much. I know he wears Nikes and stuff like that, and he wore.
Say that again, starting with also it made Roman's shoes.
Yep. Also, it made Roman's shoes stand out even more. I know he normally wears Nikes, but I think he's wearing the Kobe 9s or something like that. It was a bit too much from him where it clearly looked like he was wearing a basketball shoe when he was wrestling.
It was the only color in the entire match other than the ads on the canvas. It just, the visual of this was not great. And it was shocking that they didn't know that going in. All you needed was Sikoa to have like a red stripe down his shorts or just something. It was all black. It was ridiculous. Roman took spinning Solo into the announce table plus a monitor shot and a thrown steel steps shot to his head early. Then he got his ass beat with a chair. As Sikoa said, he loved Reigns, but Reigns failed him. Roman avoided hip attack with a chair wrapped around his neck, then wore out the chair himself on Sikoa. Solo answered with a low blow and spinning Solo on a chair. Reigns hit drive-by as Sikoa grabbed the table. Then he got clocked in the head with a kendo stick and took more shots from the stick as Solo again voiced his pain. Roman took him off the ropes for a powerbomb through the table, with Tama Tonga pulling the referee out of the ring. Jacob Fatu then appeared, destroying Reigns with an impaler, DDT, and jump-up moonsault. Sikoa added Samoan Spike for a false finish, so he Samoan Spiked the referee for good measure because he was angry at the count. Sami Zayn and Jimmy Uso saved with a haluva kick. Reigns then speared Sikoa with a new referee running in way too late for a false finish. The 4 extras all fought to the back, clearing the deck. But as Reigns set up for the spear, Kevin Owens ran in with a shocking stunner for a false finish. He was about to add a package pile driver when Cody Rhodes saved after somehow transporting himself from the front row to the backstage area. He hits a Cody cutter. Solo caught Superman punch, but Roman ducked Samoan Spike for a spear and hit a second spear to regain the Ula Fala in 22 minutes. Just as Heyman was prepared to hand the wreath to Reigns, The Rock walked out from backstage. I guess he transported there too. He took the Ula Fala, placed it over Reigns' head. He stared him down for a moment and then offered a dap up and an embrace. He said, "I love you," multiple times. And then he stood in the corner and he kind of kept an eye on Roman throughout the entire celebration. The highlight of this entire match was Owens just showing up out of nowhere. It was obvious that Reigns would recover after Tonga and Fatu attacked, but when Owens came in, it actually created a shred of doubt that did not exist previously. Legitimately unexpected, yet a perfect fit within kayfabe. It also gave KO more ammunition against Cody, who can say he promised to go after Owens whenever he saw him no matter what, so he wasn't there directly to save Roman. I was actually disappointed there wasn't Drew McIntyre involvement as well, but he and Jay were both kept out of the match because they were wrestling later. As far as the match itself goes, super formulaic, bloodline on bloodline template wrestling. Slow start, weapons, finally heats up, gets exciting, tons of interference. Same as always, which was disappointing, but expected. I'll talk about The Rock post-match after the fact, but if I was grading this match on its own merits, Chris, 3 stars, B-.
I thought it was solid. It was very much a typical WWE ending the story type of match. You know, this is how you usually end those. And to that point, I thought it was fine. The match had gone on for quite a while when I thought to myself, when is there going to be interference? And right as I thought that, we got the 1-2 referee pulled out. I was like, oh, there we go. So we still got a lot to get into. I legit said out loud, like, holy crap, when Kevin Owens showed up.
Yeah.
Because you're right. I didn't see that coming, and the stunner happens. I'm like, whoa, is this going to be a finish? Are they going to have pulled a quick one on us? Roman, great with the kick out, as he always is. And then I was thinking, as this interference is going on, I was like, is Cody Rhodes still sitting in the front row? Why doesn't he just get up and get involved? Is he just watching this? I guess he had gone backstage so he could do the entrance to make his come out. And he had to be careful when he did the Cody cutter because he was wearing dress shoes. So he was very careful of that, as he should be. That was very well done. I thought the camera work toward the end of this was interesting because one of Solo's biggest kickouts came on the hard cam, which we never get. Like it was like a zoomed in cam like we normally get, and then it went to the hard cam for the 3 of the kick out. I was like, oh, that was different. Not that I didn't like it, but we just don't normally see that. But then the cameras did miss the final ooh-ah from Roman into the spear. They just missed it. There was hard cam, and then it went close onto Solo, and they just missed Roman doing it. Very surprising because they had gotten him doing it before. So some rare production errors there. And as for the Roman putting the thing on, Rock putting the thing on the Ula Fala on Roman, another great shot of Roman winning, and then you see the Rock slowly walking out on the stage. I was like, wait a minute, is that Rock? and so that was really well done. I thought it said to me, we're probably not doing Rock Roman this year. That's what I ultimately took out of it. And Roman seemed genuinely happy that moment happened and that The Rock, honored him in this way. We know what the Ula Fala means to him. It was his dad and his uncle who put it on him, and you could tell the familial ties there meant a lot, and it was really cool.
Yeah, as far as the Rock portion of this goes, like I said earlier, the segment with Reigns after the match, it did not dissuade me from believing they can build up that feud whenever the hell they want.
Yeah.
Perhaps doing the Cody match becomes more difficult now, as hot as that would be. It was always secondary to Rock and Roman, which should ultimately be Rock's retirement match. It did feel like a rock bottom was coming when they stood together in the ring, and I presume that was the point, to tease animosity without actually showing it. perhaps because they just don't know when that match is ultimately going to happen. All I know, and you said this earlier, Final Boss Rock is interesting. Dwayne Johnson is not in 2025.
Yep, totally.
So
that's what made Final Boss was so good, because he turned the entire Dwayne Johnson thing on its head. And that's what made him interesting. And you could tell he felt free to just start saying shit and not having to think about what he's saying. And if he's shouting out the right people and saying the proper thing for the brand and this and that and this and that, he could just go. That's why it was awesome. That's why I was disappointed not to get it, because spoiler, we're going to talk about The Rock a lot when we get to the meaties.
Sure, we are. Absolutely. And really, this segment, I thought, in totality, was a microcosm of the entire show. But you'll find out what we mean by that at the end. So later on Raw, from a social media video, we saw The Rock dapping up a bunch of people in gorilla position. He accidentally left Triple H hanging at one point, which was hysterical. Rock then dapped up Travis Scott and Cody in the parking lot, saying, "I come in peace," when he approached Rhodes. Cody said it was the nicest Rock had ever been to him. So again, it just wasn't 100% burying their story, but with Cody and Rock, it was more than Rock and Roman. They also seemed to be drinking, and then Rock drove off after that. So we saw him drink and drive. But like I said, we did.
Didn't even think of that.
Like he chugged a drink and then got in the car and drove. But he put a seatbelt on, but he drove. I still don't think anything was retconned with Reigns. Maybe they did end the Cody storyline, maybe not. Rock can change on a dime, but this was just an extremely odd way to piece all of this together. And it was, again, time spent on the show about Rock that was not interesting Rock. When we would see him do social media promos after shows, and he would be talking shit and, yelling at stagehands and doing all this stuff and cursing and drinking, that was interesting, but not this.
Yeah, well, a lot of it, I think it was Instagram Live he was doing it. I think it was just The Rock doing his people just doing more social media stuff, because every single thing The Rock does has to be recorded and uploaded to social media. And they figured, that's a good place to throw in the NXT announcement.
And then we saw Heyman gas up Reigns, saying they need to platform themselves so that the world can acknowledge him. They walked into a WWE 2K25 room with Reigns saying they can do that on January 27th. So either Reigns is on Raw now, because that's a Monday, or he's floating between both shows. If you remember, he was pulled out of the last WWE draft by Heyman, so he's a free agent. He's not assigned to one show or the other. Hysterical, though, that they're telling fans that you're just not going to see him for 3 weeks because he has the Ulafala now. And so, yeah, he'll just come back when he wants. They're also really going to need to do something interesting during this appearance on the 27th, because the entire storyline now feels like it's completely over. And I don't know what they now do with Reigns. Like, if he's not fighting Rock, and you have to presume he's not going back after Cody Rhodes for a third straight WrestleMania main event, what the hell is this guy going to do?
Well, that was my thought too. After the match, was like, all right, this feels like the end of the Bloodline story. Kind of.
It's the most it's ever felt over.
Yeah,
I don't believe it is over, but it's the most it's ever felt.
He is the final tribal chief. The OG Bloodline is back together. Like, I don't know what they do next. And I'm sure obviously they have a plan, and I'm very curious to see where that goes. But it did feel like, for the first time in a long time, or maybe ever, like, all right, that Bloodline story that began with Roman's return and Jay and Jimmy and the I Quit and stuff like that, it does feel like that head of the table era of the Bloodline is now finally done.
It does indeed. Let's actually spend time talking about someone other than Samoans. We love the Samoans, but it's time to talk about the rest of Raw. We had CM Punk against Seth Rollins. This was the main event as advertised. Cole referred to Rollins by his real name, Colby Lopez, while telling the story of his rise in professional wrestling at the start of this match. Punk came out wearing his old Ring of Honor gear, which he also wore against Samoa Joe at Brawl In. Just a little interesting note there. This started hot. Punk hit an avalanche swinging neckbreaker. Rollins rolled through a crossbody, lifting Punk for his own finisher, Go To Sleep, with Punk flying outside. Fans regularly sang Rollins' song, did not chant for Punk early in the match. After Seth trash-talked him ringside, Punk caught Rollins coming back in the ring with the stomp for a false finish, and he finally got CM Punk chants. Rollins caught and reversed GTS for a false finish. Punk ducked a stomp. Rollins countered GTS on the announce table with a pedigree, but sold a knee on the landing. He delivered a second pedigree back in the ring for another false finish, leading to dual chants. Rollins caught Punk running for a buckle bomb and a stomp, but he stupidly rolled him toward the ropes as opposed to away from them for a broken fall. He's way too smart for that as a character, so that didn't fit with me. Punk smacked Rollins, enraging him before a superplex, but as he went for a Falcon Arrow finisher, or I should say following, Punk caught him for a GTS, and then he collapsed. Rollins, selling the GTS, bounced backwards off the ropes, collapsed onto Punk's back, so Punk lifted him for a second GTS, and then collapsed on top of him to get the win in 25 minutes. Rollins was basically catatonic for a bit at the start of the post-show, and his sells on both of those GTSs to end the match were fantastic. The second one actually busted open his eardrum. This was easily the match of the night. It's also the bar for WWE Match of the Year just 6 days into 2025. It's easily going to be passed. Don't get me wrong. I'm just saying it's the best match we've gotten through 2 shows by a good margin. A little bit too much.
So you're saying the Nia Jax Naomi match has been
it has been beaten. Yes. It'd almost be fun to kind of do that all year long. Like, what is now the best match of the year, as opposed to just like saying this is a great match and then trying to figure it out at the end. But yes, Nia Jax and Naomi is now number 2, and CM Punk and Seth Rollins is number 1. It's easily going to get passed, but through 2 shows, it's the best match. It was a little bit too much finisher spam for my liking. Both of these guys can do a lot more, especially given 25 minutes of runtime with only 1 commercial, by the way. That was great. These guys definitely went to war, but it did not necessarily feel as hate-filled as Rollins said it was going to be. It was not Punk McIntyre by any means, but it was also a regular match and not a stipulation, and we only had a few weeks build for it. Not sure I have that much more to add. It was borderline for me. I feel like they held back purposefully to a degree for future matches to come. The inventive finish was superb. I'm at 4 stars, A-. I just wish Rollins had not rolled him to the ropes so blatantly. That was the only part of the match that bothered me. I'm going to rewatch it. Maybe it's slightly better on second watch. The crowd was exhausted and kind of dead in the middle. That didn't help. So yeah, like I said, 4 stars, A-.
Solid stuff. Clean finish. I really had no idea how this was going to end or who was going to win. But I had the feeling that whoever loses the first match will end up winning the feud. Mm-hmm. So my feeling now is wherever this ends, it ends with Rollins coming out on top. It was finisher spammy. Frankly, 3 of the 4 matches we got on Raw were finisher spammy, but 2 of them were feud ending matches, and so that's fine. Tribal Combat, I was fine. I don't think you needed to do that in this one. Like, Punk's already needed 2 GTSs to beat Rollins. I don't know if we needed to start there, but it was fun. It was well done. Punk was rolling everywhere, man. I haven't seen him move that much in a match like in a long time, just in terms of flying all over the place and stuff like that. The pedigree on the table didn't break the table to the point where, again, I don't know if you can break that table.
Yeah, that thing may not get broken. It's very possible.
I don't know what the state of the announce table is now. And Rollins bleeding at the end was a good accidental look. I hope they got better camera shots of it, because the main cam that was trying to get it couldn't quite fully get a good shot at it. So hopefully some other cameras did, and you use that in the video package for the next one. I guess as I say that, we didn't get any video packages in the show, did we?
No, they published a bunch of them on social media, like multiple minutes long, really high quality. But I would think because they were talking to a casual audience, they would have run them before the matches. And maybe they did during commercial breaks for the international feed. By the way, I think you mentioned this earlier, but international feed, no commercials, right? So maybe they got some of those. I was shocked how little extra stuff was on Raw. There were very few backstage segments, almost 0 storyline building for next week. I think there was 1 storyline actually built for next week. And if you have all these matches and you're saying there's a bunch of casuals watching, the thing you literally need to do and should do is air those packages. In totality, it would have taken if they aired them in full, the ones they posted on social media, 10, 12 extra minutes, you don't have a time restriction.
Yeah.
I don't understand it. I could not figure that out, especially for the opening match, Tribal Combat, and for the main event.
Well, yeah, 2 of the matches were ending the feuds, and like when they did Saturday's main event,
2 ended the feuds in the
3.
main event. Yeah.
So in Saturday's main event, remember, they were very like basic in explaining who these people are and why they're fighting, and I believe they had some packages in there, and it worked. I thought they did a really good job of that. They did not do that here at all.
No.
And it's interesting, like you said, this wasn't an episode of Raw where they said, see you next week, or you got to tune in next week to see what happens. It was very much just like 2 feuds ended. We had a clean finish in the main event. Barely anything was set up for next week.
Mm-hmm.
So it was a weird feeling show in that sense.
It really wasn't. We'll actually talk more about that at the end of this program. I did want to mention that Punk cut an excellent promo on the post show that you should seek out. You know, I was going to say I'd play it if it wasn't already way past midnight. It's 2 minutes long. Screw it. I'm going to play it. Here's Punk after Raw.
Sator, thank you so much. CM Punk, congratulations. You just became the first WWE superstar to ever win a main event match in the Netflix era of Monday Night Raw. But based on the way you got out of the ring and the way you are right now, this match clearly took a toll on you. What can you say about it, what it took to win this battle tonight?
46 is just a number. And so's number 1, and that's exactly what I am, and that's exactly what I have been saying since I got here in 2005. Yeah, maybe I took a 10-year vacation, but I'm back and I'm better than ever. Ain't nobody touching me. BITW, best in the world. That's what it means. Straight edge means I'm better than you. I'm coming for all the gold in 25. Royal Rumble, Elimination Chamber, WrestleMania, Netflix. Biggest thing I've ever done in my entire life. This match is for Chad Gilbert. This match is for Chris Bay. And this match is for me. And anybody who ever said that I wasn't, look at me now.
You know, Punk, I want to follow up because you're clearly passionate right now. You're still feeling the adrenaline from this match. You might even need a ref to help you up the ramp here. But you mentioned that 10-year hiatus. I mean, there was a time where WWE fans weren't sure they would ever see you make this walk up this ramp for the WWE ever again. And now here you are in the center of one of the biggest, maybe the biggest night in WWE history. What does this mean to you now, considering everything that you have gone through up to this point?
What does this mean to me? What's my name? CM Punk! 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 46 is just a number. 1 through 30, just numbers. Royal Rumble, you're next on the list. Gunther, I'm coming for you. Cody, I'm coming for you. I'm Mr. October. I'm Game 7. I am clutch. I am the best in the world.
That was excellent. I mean, that's one of his top 3-4 promos since he's rejoined WWE. You could hear the passion. You could feel the passion. And it was kind of heelish a little bit. I kind of wish they closed Raw with that and didn't open the post show with it.
Maybe. I mean, it was. I mean, when shouting out Chris Bay,
that was awesome.
TNA wrestler who had a really bad injury recently, is still going through that. That was really, really good. It felt like we got a lot of fire from CM Punk, and it felt like real fire, not manufactured fire.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the best CM Punk. So, would love more of that, and it was good stuff.
Let's move to the Women's World Championship. Liv Morgan defending against Rhea Ripley in a this has to end match, which technically was not the stipulation, but it basically was. This did not wind up being last woman standing, even though they temporarily promoted it as such. It main evented hour 2. Ripley powerbombed Morgan into the announce table right away, almost an identical start to Tribal Combat. Rhea pulled out some new shit while manhandling Liv early. She countered Riptide with a backstabber and tornado DDT, but Ripley caught her with Riptide for a false finish. Dominic Mysterio did the title gimmick, allowing Raquel Rodriguez to distract Ripley and Morgan to hit Oblivion into a chair for another false finish. Liv then hit 3 Amigos and a frog splash. Rhea intercepted another Oblivion attempt, grabbing her, just totally overpowering her, hitting a slam, riptide, and then a second riptide and her signature cover to win in 12 minutes and regain the women's championship. Dom approached after the bell with arms out for a hug, so Rhea placed the title down, put her arms out, kicked him in the balls, hit a riptide, and got a big pop. It was at this point I realized she might have been wearing like China tribute gear. I'm not positive about that, but she looked great. Certainly the right winner, a fine match, the clean title change. Left a lot to be desired as a feud ender, given how long this has been going on. 12 minutes was nowhere near long enough as the final match in this series on a 4-bout, 3+ hour show. Ripley dominated far too much of the match, given we've seen Morgan get plenty of offense against her previously. She did take 3 riptides to get pinned, so like that is impressive to a degree, but there wasn't even a kick out after the second one. The first one almost didn't matter because everyone knew the match wasn't ending after 8 minutes. The interference probably should have come earlier. That way Liv could have gotten a sustained run of offense. I would have much preferred this on next week's show with the women's intercontinental title getting the 12 minutes. This could have main evented next week and gotten 25 minutes, the blow off it deserved. Given what happened afterward, it made more sense why they did it this way. Long-term viewers, though, they deserved much more than this, and that was a theme the entire night. 3.25 stars and a B.
This was the most revealing outfit Rhea Ripley has ever worn, and it's getting more and more less that she's wearing. If she wasn't covered in tattoos, she would look like she's out there in underwear. I have zero problem with this.
I don't know that anyone's wearing leather and chain underwear, at least not most people.
Well, I mean, I just mean in terms of what's covered was very, very minimal. Not that I'm complaining. She looks great. Brother. I just was like, I was just like, that's there's not much left to the imagination there at that point. I thought the match was fine. There's only so much these two can do given how long this has been going on. The only thing left to do was have Liv kick out of Riptide, Rhea kick out of Oblivion in a chair, and Rhea hit multiple finishers to win. It's essentially what happened in the main event with Punk and Rollins too. So, you kick Dom in the nuts. It feels like this is over with. I guess we're not going to get the Dom Rhea match that we were hoping for. Yeah. I can understand why they wouldn't with everything, but would have been nice. Also, very funny comment from Michael Cole at the end of this where he says, Dominic isn't going to be able to have fun with Liv tonight after that. And McAfee goes, yeah, Liv's not the champion anymore. And Cole goes, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about what just happened to him and where he got kicked. And McAfee's like, oh, that was pretty funny.
So just as Ripley was celebrating her title win at the Titantron, the gong rang out, and then American Badass hit with Undertaker riding out on a chopper. He drove around the ring once, then stopped at the stage for a simultaneous fist raise with pyro going off to celebrate Rhea's win. Cool celebration moment, really nice visual for Ripley sharing the stage with Undertaker, getting the pyro. Even if this 3 minutes that was wasted for this was added to the match, it still wouldn't have been enough time for me, so that didn't really factor in. Again, they deserved 18 to 20 minutes at a minimum to conclude this feud, but as a visual that WWE can use, this was a really nice moment.
The best part of it was Rhea smiling when the gong hit.
Right.
Like normally gong hits and everybody, you get the scared look on your face, but Rhea smiling, it fits her character. And so it was a cool little thing. Look, there's a lot of stuff on the show that's not going to happen every time on Raw. You're going to bring back a bunch of legends to do a bunch of things. Undertaker does that. I believe The Rock had already left by the time Undertaker showed up. So we didn't have to say, well, what about Undertaker Rock with how WrestleMania went? So that was all good. The American Badass version of the theme is not nearly as good as the Limp Bizkit version of the theme. And I miss it. That's all.
Yeah, no question about that. John Cena began his farewell tour as the second segment of the show. The gear is dreadful, as usual. They're doing city-by-city collections, so new colors for each location. Los Angeles was Dodgers. After putting over WWE and LA, Cena questioned who he might fight at WrestleMania and throughout the next year ahead. He named a bunch of heels and faces. He also questioned whether he will win a 17th heavyweight championship. "You deserve it" chants rang out. Cena said he just doesn't see it happening because it's been nearly 2,500 days since he's even won a match. His time is up. Their time is now, meaning the rest of the roster. Cena compartmentalized it as 2025 being a year of fun, saying a 17th title will never happen. Then he corrected himself, saying in WWE, you can't say never. So he said it will take a miracle, like winning Money in the Bank, or Elimination Chamber, or the Royal Rumble. Cena said the only time to say never is when you say never give up. Then he announced himself for the Royal Rumble and said he would win it all. This was the opposite of The Rock's opening promo. A 10 out of 10. Perfect in tone, tenor, and topic. Played some of the hits, kept it fresh, focused on what 2025 is going to look like for him. Even took someone like me, who very much likes but does not love Cena, and got me extremely excited for him to not only be in the Rumble, but potentially win it. If you had told me previously that Cena's going to come right back to WWE and he's either going to win the Rumble or a Chamber or Money in the Bank, I would have rolled my eyes. After this promo, I'm all in. Would it have been better if someone interrupted him and started a separate, simultaneous storyline? Absolutely. But the Royal Rumble is only 1 month away, so it's not like there's much runway for a feud during the time between. Just because he's in the Rumble doesn't mean he's going to win it. He could easily get eliminated by someone, and that could be his first feud. It still would have been preferable for me to get someone else involved, add a second layer to the segment. Cena now winning number 17 looks like it's going to be in the cards. Whether it happens at Rumble Mania, some other combination, I'll certainly buy that. This was actually, outside of Punk Rollins, the best segment on the entire show.
That's interesting because I thought it was very paint by numbers John Cena. And
to a degree.
Paint by numbers John Cena can be good. Like it's not bad by any means, but like you're telling me a guy who has won 2 Royal Rumbles didn't realize until midway through this promo, wait a minute, I could win the Royal Rumble and go get my 17th
No,
title?
he was taking the fans for a ride. That was what he was doing.
No.
It didn't like dawn on him, oh yeah, I can win the Rumble.
But that's not how I took it.
That's how
I took it as he doesn't think it's going to happen unless, well, I guess there's a Royal Rumble. Like I took that as it dawning on him during the promo that he's so down on himself and how much he hasn't lost that these are things he doesn't even really consider anymore. He's just here to have fun for the fans. And as he's talking through it, he's realizing, wait, maybe there are things.
Okay. I can see that perspective. I can see that perspective, sure.
Yeah, that's how I took it.
But you know what? Let me kind of speak to that a little bit.
Yeah.
I see that perspective, and I think that's a really good point. Maybe I mistook, the direction he was going.
I could be wrong.
But but even as someone who's experienced and has done all those things, right? He started this promo from the mental standpoint of, I haven't won in, 2,500 days. I'm not going to win singles matches enough to become a number 1 contender, but you're going to see me at all these great events. The Royal Rumble, which, to your point, I've just won twice. Money in the Bank, which I've won previously. Elimination Chamber, which I've won previously. Oh shit, a miracle can happen. And he juices himself up and goes for it. Was it corny? Absolutely it was corny. Again, if this happened 5 years ago, I would have been like, oh, come on. There was something about it on this night, in this moment, the way the fans reacted and the way Cena cut that promo. They got me hook, line, and sinker. I'm all in for Cena in 2025.
No, I am all in for Cena too. He is legit one of the best to ever do it. Maybe the best promo man of all time. And it's a credit to him that he can take a pretty simple thing and make it interesting and make it fiery and get you fired up for sure. When he tries to talk wrestling logic, it's pretty tough because there is no wrestling logic. The Rock got a main event after being away from WWE for like a decade. You're John
not for
Cena.
A title, not for the heavyweight championship. He didn't.
It was not long after the Rock had wrestled like 2 matches and he got it.
Oh, you're talking about that time. I thought you meant recently. Okay.
Yeah, no. Yeah, I'm sorry. Back once in a lifetime.
Yes.
So John Cena knows how wrestling works. He can come in and demand a title shot.
Wait, no, this is a guy who didn't have a role at WrestleMania. He had to fight for a role at WrestleMania. He sat ringside.
Yeah, I know. Can't believe I was. Yeah, we were there individually before we knew each other for that one. So that's the.
This is more logical than that was. Just being fair.
But no, it was real solid. I'm really looking forward to his entire year. There's so much potential.
Yeah.
That you can get out of this. I don't mean John Cena heel turn. I mean, tell stories and do some interesting things and not just dream matches. I don't care about the conversations of, who's the stuff he brought up. Who could he wrestle? He lists the names. Who could be his last match? The first question to him at the press conference was some person from Deadline who asked him, well, what about wrestling The Rock? Dude, like, I don't want to see that. I want to see John Cena in good.
No, but that's a Hollywood rag, and that they're asking the TMZ question: could we get these two big action stars? And that's a legit question for that out.
Right, but Cena brought it up himself in the promo, and I'm just like, I'm glad he kind of did it because it kind of told me he doesn't want that to be the thing.
He doesn't.
It feels like he wants to try to tell some stories, and that's what he was trying to do with this promo. So I am optimistic that they can really make this one of the greatest final runs of all time.
Cena later said there was a big post-show press conference that we didn't even realize was happening. He said he has signed for 36 dates with WWE, but he doesn't know how many matches that entails. Obviously, that's 3 dates per month, which on average is fantastic. It probably means he'll take a couple months off and have a couple full months as well. So that's pretty solid. 36 dates. That's probably 5, 6, 7 matches in there. That's exciting. I personally like the idea. Let me book the damn territory real quick. I like the idea of Cena failing at Rumble and Chamber, wrestling a singles match at Mania, not for a title. I like him winning Money in the Bank because when it comes to Money in the Bank, it's been so frustrating most of these years that just giving it to Cena, it's like fine, right? Cashing it in at SummerSlam, then losing the title at Survivor Series. That for me would be a perfect year. He gets a number of individual singles matches. He gets a number of unique matches, the Royal Rumbles and the Elimination Chambers and all that. He deals with some adversity, works from under, gets a bunch of singles feuds out of the way, wins the title, drops it before 2025 is over. What do you think about that?
I don't think he'll win the title. I don't think he should. I do think the chase for the title will be a gigantic story, whoever that is. I feel like that's got to be him and Cody. Like, if he's going to do the last chance, like, it's got to be Cody and not Gunther for the World Heavyweight Championship, Like, it's got to be the title.
Man.
And
it really should be the WWE Championship.
I don't think he's going to get it on that. So Money in the Bank, I don't know. I don't mind him winning Money in the Bank. I like the idea of him getting Money in the Bank, calling his shot like he did the last time he won it and failing.
Oh, I just forgot about something. If he wins Money in the Bank, I mean, I guess he still could call his shot for SummerSlam, but the King and Queen of the Ring winners do get automatic title matches. So it would just have to be for one title or the other.
See. Well, they didn't get those until like the week of the show. So
no, that's not true. They said
I don't know how locked in that is.
They said it soon after, but it was convoluted the way they got to it. But they established that now, so it'll be interesting to see. But I don't know, man. I'm into Cena. Just let's make this clear. Now it's January 7th. The time has crossed over while we're taping this episode. The official Vintage Chris Vanini prediction: John Cena does not win his 17th heavyweight championship in WWE. The official Silver King Adam Silverstein prediction is that he does. So let's just make sure that is officially known. We had Jey Uso against.
Do we want to make a bet of some kind on that, and the loser has to do something?
No, because it's 17-3 right now, me over you. So I mean, what are we betting? I mean, you owe me so much at this point.
I mean, I think this is a pretty 50-50 one though. Like I think if you polled our listeners, I think 50-50 they would agree with both.
You want to do you want to do the show intro on it? But I would need something. I don't know what I would get if I'd give you that.
I don't know. That we'd have to come up with something. We'll think about it.
Let's think it through. If anyone has good ideas,
future show.
If anyone has good ideas, you can email us at gettingoverpod@gmail.com. You can tweet us at gettingovercast on Twitter. I forgot to do our social media on the show at Getting Over on Blue Sky. If you guys have any ideas what we could bet on the John Cena Championship outcome. I'd be curious to see if that's on an offshore sports book. Maybe we could look that up as well.
Maybe someone has to buy like the worst looking John Cena shirt and like post a picture of it or something.
God, that would be so horrendous.
Do the intro or do a video of yourself doing that.
I don't even know if there's a such thing as a worst looking John Cena shirt because they're all absolute trash. At least all of them since he went full babyface. The Thugonomics ones were great. All right, let's move to the next match. Jey Uso against Drew McIntyre. Jey entered from the crowd with Travis Scott, who is holding an updated hardcore championship and straight up smoking a fat blunt. I've seen a lot of shit in my day, but a blunt being smoked on Raw was absolutely not on my bingo card for this show. Now that I think back about the visual, it might have actually been a joint, but those puffs were huge, so I just figured it was a blunt. Pat McAfee and Michael Cole were yeeting on the announce table during this. McAfee tried to get Scott to pass it to him. The whole deal was wild and hysterical. Incredible lighting and drone shots for this entrance. I would say it was an 8 of 10 overall. It would have been a 10 of 10 if they better used the Intuit dome lights to kind of aid the yeeting and make it look like Backlash France, which they didn't. I don't know why they didn't do that, but this is one of 2 nominees already for entrance of the year.
I want to talk to Samson.
That's what Travis Scott and Jey were saying right before the bell rang.
So that hardcore championship, I'm pretty sure was the red Universal Championship with a hardcore look around it. So I guess just like the Nike stuff, Travis Scott just kind of takes something and twists it to make it his own. Really interesting look. We should bring back the hardcore champ. I would fully support that.
I've had many conversations about that when it came to the 24/7 title and the hardcore championship. We'll save that for another show.
Yeah. Cole and McAfee here were out of control. McAfee is going, I'm yeeting all over myself. Cole responds with, don't yeet on me. I don't have another clean suit.
Yeah, I only brought one shirt.
Yeah, like, good Lord, guys. And also, weirdly, the camera never went to them. Like, they both got up on the table and were doing the thing, and we were expecting the typical cut to that, and they just never did it. They kept doing very far away shots.
Yeah.
Very surprising we never got the close-up of them, but the two of them, I really enjoy them together. Glad McAfee's back. Do we know if he's back on a full-time basis now?
Full-time.
Yeah, so that's good. I like him in that role. I like him and Cole together. We'll talk more about SmackDown when we get to SmackDown. So this was, good entrance.
Everyone can have their opinions on McAfee as a color commentator, but what I won't allow anyone to disagree with is that he brings the best out of Cole. Cole is great with Corey. He's great with Wade. He is at his best with McAfee. So if you want the best version of Michael Cole, Pat McAfee needs to be in the booth. Jey wrestled either with a grill in his mouth or a mouthpiece that made it look like he had a grill in his mouth. Questionable if he actually wore a grill while wrestling. I can't even imagine someone doing that. He hit a tope con hero to go to commercial at the start. Jey countered a Claymore with a leaping kick. Drew hit a gutbuster and deadlift Liger bomb. There were actual dual chants here. People were rooting for Drew. McIntyre avoided a counter, nailed Future Shock DDT. Jey countered Claymore with a spear. Drew then avoided a spear and countered a spear with a Claymore for a false finish. Jey collapsed during another Claymore attempt, so McIntyre taunted him. Jey ducked an ensuing Claymore and then caught him in a crucifix cover, not a roll-up. A roll-up is one thing. An O'Connor roll is something else. A jackknife cover is something else. This was a crucifix cover for the 1-2-3, ensuring the baby faces won every single match on this show. This was basically every Jey Uso match you've ever seen. His limited moveset was once again exposed here. Dozens of super kicks, spears he does worse than his cousin and pretty much everyone else in WWE, and that's about it. He's massively over. He gets huge pops for his entrance, and he gets huge pops when he wins matches. That's great. He does not hold the crowd from bell to bell at all. The fans were also terrible for this match. And really, McIntyre losing was an absolute joke. Even how they did it, with Drew having a 3-0 record against Jey coming in, and Jey just happening to catch him at the end. McIntyre is positioned for a main event run in 2025. He's in probably the most interesting ongoing feud right now with Kevin Owens and Cody Rhodes. You saw it on SmackDown. And you have him just lose to Jey because fan service on a casual show. 3 stars, B-.
Yeah, It was fine for what it was. I did like the finish. Like, if you're going to have Jay win, that's a really creative way to do that. And they nailed that crucifix pin.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it wasn't like, oh, they missed something and they're just kind of, oh, we're doing it 1, 2, 3. Like, they got it right. Drew looked like he was trying to get out of it. So, look, you give Jay a win on a big stage on the Netflix show because he rarely gets the big wins otherwise. I'm guessing they run this back again and Drew wins.
No, he's already 3. He was 3-0 against him going in. Like,
well, I don't know what Drew's doing moving forward. Just, I don't know what a lot of people are doing kind of going into Mania season, which is not a bad thing. I don't know what the heck's going to happen next. I could easily see Drew getting his win back in dominant fashion if he's going to go on a bigger type of run. So ultimately, I think we all picked Drew to win. We said Drew had to win, but I was okay with it because of the creative way they did it.
By the way, Pat McAfee on social media shared a photo of Michael Cole's Apple Watch that was taken during this segment, and he got an alert. It looks like you've taken a hard fall SOS emergency call. So his Apple Watch, I guess his heart was beating really fast or his blood pressure was up, and it got worried about him because he was standing on the desk and eating during the show. So that's pretty incredible. Jay, it remains a frustration for me. I'm glad he got the IC title. I would have been okay with him holding it longer. I don't want him anywhere near the world title picture. He can't do it. He's super popular. It's awesome that he's super popular. I would much rather have LA Knight win a world title than Jay. And I don't even want LA Knight to win a world title.
Yeah, because you hate LA Knight. We know that.
I don't hate him. I just don't think he should be world champion. There's a lot of other people that need to platform. Hopefully, McIntyre's arrow only points up from here. I'm not overly concerned about him, but I just didn't love the booking here. Gunther got an excellent black and white promo package where only the World Heavyweight title was in color. He said WWE may have entered a new era, but it's the same for him because he's where dreams, hopes, and ambitions go to die. We actually saw some red ropes here, so I guess there were 2 colors, but when I first wrote it, only the title was in color. The red ropes looked so much better than the white that was actually used during the show. There was not much to this segment. It did make Gunther look really good as champion. I wish he was on the show. Otherwise, kind of weird that neither world champion spoke like to the fans in the ring, did anything substantial on the opening Raw on Netflix.
I mean, the only people who spoke to the crowd were Roman, Rock, and Heyman as part of introductions, right?
Yeah. Yes, but other people did things in front of the crowd, like Jay had crowd responses and Rollins, they sang for Rollins and Punk. They wrestled.
No, but to your point, yeah, it is weird to not have your champion of Raw on Raw, like actually on Raw, and even Cody only sort of. That was it was a weirdly structured show.
It was indeed, and we're still going to talk about that a little bit later. Adam Pearce backstage finished a conversation with Bayley when American Made interrupted an interview with Chad Gable, putting his faction over, saying he was going to dispel 2 falsehoods. First, that he can't win a singles title. 2, that he can't beat luchadors. Pearce promised to get him the best one possible to prove that theory next week. Earlier in the show, there was another Pentagon graphic package that showed the mask, and it turned into the word Penta. So perhaps we were all misunderstanding the Penta teases, but it sure seemed like he was debuting on this show. Either things changed or this was always the plan. Next week's is going to be in San Jose, California. So just as good of a spot to debut a luchador as Los Angeles would be. A little disappointed we didn't get Penta on the show. It was one of many disappointments I had during the night, but I'm also excited that Penta is going to be involved with Gable and presumably not LWO.
I'm kind of worried though, just because like Gable once again involved with the new gimmick. And while that's like a position where it means that they trust you, it's also a position where they don't really have any bigger plans for you.
No, Gable is moving shows. He's almost certainly moving shows going over to SmackDown. So this is like a write-off from Raw. He loses to Penta in his debut match, then he and American Made go through the transfer window over to SmackDown, and they reestablish themselves. I'm totally fine if they do it that way.
So you think Penta he's debuting and it's just a one-off match?
Yes.
That's it for them?
Exactly.
I would be fine with that. Yeah. I hope so.
As long as that's what it is, then I agree. If he debuts and loses, then they start a feud and he loses to him 4 times, then yes, I would have a problem with that, obviously. Logan Paul got a promo package saying He's never respected the process or fallen in line. No shit. And now he's dedicating his life to WWE. No more side hustles or bullshit. 100% WWE superstar. He said that he would do this for some time, but I will only believe it when I actually see him dedicate himself to it. He talks a lot of shit, doesn't live up to it, even when it comes to WWE. Do I want him around regularly? Not at all. Do I acknowledge that he will be an immensely compelling character who will put great matches on television if used frequently? Of course.
I was surprised we didn't get more Logan Paul for this show. I thought he'd have a promo in front of the crowd. Like he's one of the biggest stars you have. And that was it. Like, okay. I just was very surprised by that whole thing. I would love for him to be 100% committed toward WWE, and that's all he does because he's really good at this.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think that's going to be the case.
Let me ask you a question.
But yeah,
John Cena, we know, is going to do 36 dates with WWE, right? Let's assume that means TV and premium live event. Do we see Logan Paul more or less than 36 times in 2025?
Ooh, 36 times.
For both Cena and Logan, Raw on Netflix debut counts as night one. So each of them would have 35 appearances left. Do we see Paul more or less than Cena's remaining 35 appearances?
I'm gonna say less.
That's what I think too.
But 35 is still a pretty good amount.
It is, but if he's going to be a full-time WWE superstar and possibly appear less than a guy doing a farewell tour.
Yeah.
You know.
Well, there was that rumor, I have no idea if it's true or not, that Logan Paul asked for a John Cena WrestleMania match and I think got turned down or was told no, essentially, or something like that. So,
right.
I don't know.
Could you imagine? Oh my God.
I mean, I would love to see the two of them in a promo battle.
Oh, sure. I wouldn't mind them wrestling on a show somewhere, but not WrestleMania.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree.
Not WrestleMania, not SummerSlam, nothing like that.
I think it would be very entertaining. I'd be sports entertained by them.
New Day interrupted a Fluffy interview. Yes, Gabriel Iglesias. First insulting him before trying to steal his time. Alpha Academy saved the day with Fluffy starting a New Day sucks chant. Bunch of nothing. Given the booking with Gable and Penta, it does look like obviously we'll avoid him as Rey Mysterio's partner for their tag team match. I thought a heel turn and feud there coming out of a heel turn would have been a huge positive if booked that way. But now Rey needs a mystery partner for New Day, but they didn't really even announce that match for next week. So I don't really know what's happening there.
No thoughts other than New Day was also during one of those breaks that we didn't get to see, but was shown to international audiences. They did do an interview during commercial where they crapped on Kendrick Lamar.
Yeah, in Inglewood.
Drake won the beef in Inglewood. Yeah. So some classic cheap heat there.
Not quite Compton, but still Inglewood. I mean, pretty close. So before we get to our overall thoughts, real quick, next week, Sheamus, Ludwig Kaiser for like the 5th time, Chad Gable, Mystery Luchador, almost certainly Penta, Dakota Kai, Lyra Valkyria, Intercontinental Championship Tournament Finals. I really do believe this should main event the show. Again, this should have been on the debut. Raw on Netflix with Liv and Rhea. Save for next week. Alas, they decided not to do that. This was originally going to be on the show, by the way. I saw people super upset that it got pushed off. No, it would have gotten lost in the shuffle. It would have gotten 8 minutes and everyone would have been upset. Now it can be on next week's show. They can stretch their wings, no pun intended, for Lyra, and hopefully get 15, 18 minutes of a match and really deliver and make the title mean something. So I'm okay with that. And lastly, Damian Priest, Finn Balor, street fight. This has to end. Okay, they didn't say that tagline for this, but I feel exactly the same about this as I do about Rhea and Liv. Chris, for these matches, this is what I'm doing real quick. I just want to talk about Priest and Balor. We've already previewed everything else before. Balor needs to beat Priest. I know they're going to have Priest win. I'm aware. Balor needs to win. He has lost every single time to this guy. He has to get a victory, and it's a street fight, so there's every reason for him to get the dub, but he won't.
I don't think he will either. I do feel like they could have taken Liv Rhea main evented the next episode.
Absolutely.
Because the next episode is going to be quite a step down, not in quality of wrestling.
Quality's going to be up. I wouldn't be surprised.
Probably a step up.
Yeah.
But in the big feel of it in
Yeah.
WWE world.
If you flipped, I'll repeat it a third time. If you flipped Dakota and Lyra for Rhea and Liv, I think both shows would have been better.
Yeah. Also, I think Finn Priest main events Raw.
It probably does. I'm just saying Dakota and Lyra should. But-
Yeah, Dakota Kai's not main eventing
I know.
the second episode of
Hey,
Raw on Netflix.
Hey, man,
Sorry.
what
you love
a
her.
sight that would be if they did. I'm just saying it should, but I understand that they won't. So look, wrapping up Raw on Netflix. Overall, WWE made a similar mistake, well, at least a mistake in my opinion, that they made with Saturday night's main event. They went way too casual, and they did not do enough to appease the weekly viewers at all. No actual talent returns or surprises. No Becky Lynch or Charlotte Flair or anyone of note. No debut with Penta. Only one quality match across 4 on the entire show. The end of 2 feuds, both of which deserved either better booking or more prominent placements or both. I certainly understand why they did it. I completely disagree that it was necessary, even if they were in front of a more casual audience with a lot of celebrities and executives and all that bullshit in Los Angeles. They took a show that appeared to be built as if it was going to be an all-time Raw, and instead, it was rather mediocre, all things considered. I did not expect a regular week of TV with extra segments and storyline developments, but I did expect something more than what we got. So I guess if we wanted to give a grade to the entire show, I would say it was like a C+ up until the main event, which was so good that it bumped the entire show to a B-. But that's still giving allowance for it being a special episode with a bunch of filler. I expected a huge angle or return or something to hook viewers going forward. What do we always talk about at the end of big primetime shows or premium live events? It's great to have great matches, but what you got to do is finish with something that gets people wanting to tune into television next week. WWE legitimately failed itself to that degree. If you are a viewer who turned in for the first time and like, I want to see what WWE is doing, and you want it to get captured again, so that way you actually watch next week on your own volition, not because of media or promotion or advertising, they failed. They did not provide a hook to tell you, you need to watch this show. Every single match on next week's show had nothing to do with every single match or storyline segment on this week's show, with the exception of Gable and a mystery luchador, which is not going to hook a casual fan. This was one of the strangest shows that WWE has put together. The vibes were off. It was super corporate. And I'm pretty confident that it's just going to be a one-off episode feeling this way, but it doesn't change the fact that it did feel this way. And compared to expectation, it's probably the lowest that a WWE show has been to expectation in a long time.
It was weird because in many ways it felt like a pay-per-view show. The matches were big. You had feud ending matches. You had a lot of your big names in it. You had people I know who only casually watch wrestling once in a while were talking about this show on social media, and they liked a lot of the stuff that they saw. Undertaker, Travis Scott, yada, yada. And so, but it wasn't good enough to be a pay-per-view because there wasn't enough there. There were 4 matches. We were 80 minutes into the show. Almost halfway through, there had been 1 match. And that's where it was a really good show when they were doing the show. There was just so much where they weren't doing the show. The advertising and cross promotion was out of control. The good news is, I don't think this episode of Raw will be anything like Raw going forward.
No.
I think we're going to settle back into a normal setup of Raw. We're not going to get the shout outs to the Netflix executives in the suite every week. We're not going to be in Intuit Dome every week. We're not going to have The Rock out cutting a 20-minute promo every week. It'll be way toned down and probably feel like regular Raw again. And you and I talked about coming into this, how much of this would feel different relative to what Raw typically was on SmackDown. I don't think we can properly evaluate that yet.
Okay.
Because there were a lot of production things in this show that were specific to this one show, like that intro video with the curtains and all that stuff. We're not getting that every week.
Sure.
So I think it may take another week to kind of get a sense of things. This was half of a show of like, try to draw on some casuals, but also really shout out all the people who are giving you all the money to do all this stuff, and look at all the business we're doing. Don't you, as a business, want to be involved with WWE right now? Look at what we're doing for our business partners here. We're doing so much for the business partners. They're in the suite. The Rock is saying something about them. Oh, by the way, we'll give you a couple of wrestling matches too. But this show was more of an advertisement for WWE than a show.
It was a corporate event.
WWE.
It was like a special corporate event. If this was a one-off show for Netflix, that would have made a lot more sense than it being the first Raw on a new channel.
That's a good way to put it. The way the NFL has done their one-off and Netflix games like that, that's what this felt like. Like if you were going to get one show on Netflix, this is what they were going to do.
And if memory serves, those games weren't good either. So it was very similar.
No, they weren't.
Yeah.
No, it like the rest, I thought 3 of the 4 matches were really entertaining. I didn't really care for Drew J. Even if the wrestling itself wasn't great, I was really entertained.
Oh yeah, no, the wrestling was entertaining on the show, and the wrestlers largely received good responses, and like a lot of those beats were hit. But when you're concluding 2 long-term feuds with matches that don't really deliver, one of which only got 12 minutes, that's naturally...
And don't have video packages.
Don't have video packages, which you should want because you have casual fans that are watching this product. You want to hook them in and give them reasons to care and watch again. That's a failure to me, even if the matches are entertaining. I thought the main event was massively successful. I thought the John Cena segment was massively successful. Everything else just kind of fell short.
I am curious. You know, we talked about, hey, they didn't leave with suspense or a cliffhanger.
Nothing.
You got to see it next. But come next Monday night, when it's 8:00 Eastern, and any person in the world just turns on Netflix, I'm sure WWE is going to be the number one thing presented to you.
Yeah.
And there is such a power in that.
There is.
That drives entertainment. Like that is the most prime position in all of entertainment right now, is being the first thing on the carousel on Netflix. And I'm sure at least for a set period of time, at least at the beginning, WWE will be that first thing where they will get people who just turn on, oh, there it is, it's on. Like you don't really get that with television anymore. Netflix has that power. And so maybe they will continue to just get an audience through that. So
but the idea was, hey, you know, all these Netflix subscribers that you haven't really watched WWE, we want you to watch every week, and we don't want you to question it. Also, don't forget, they're doing it international. They keep like touting that, and it is cool that it's literally on demand. So if someone wakes up at 9 a.m., they can watch Raw in whatever country that would make sense, you know? But just don't forget, it's 8 p.m. Eastern, right? So in England, it's 1 a.m. when Raw starts. I'm not saying no one will watch it. Hardcore wrestling fans may stay up and end up watching, but that means they're staying up 1 to 4, and they got to wake up for work the next day. Most of them probably aren't doing that. And it's obviously even earlier in the morning, the further east you get. So I don't necessarily know that the live viewing of Raw is going to hit in that way. I think it's more the fact that they can all wake up in the morning and watch it first thing if they want, or whenever they want throughout the day. They don't have to wait for it to re-air or whatever the case might be. So I think internationally, their viewership is going to increase massively. I think domestically, their viewership is going to increase dramatically. I just don't think they succeeded for all the casuals they were trying to draw in with The Rock and John Cena and celebrities and teases and all this shit. I don't think they succeeded in saying, I hope you enjoyed those 3 hours. Now here's why you should watch next week. It felt like a one-off event. That's it.
Yeah. And the show didn't do a good job of doing that, but being on Netflix will continue to do that. And it is really interesting. Like, not even just internationally, but if you live on the West Coast, for all our West Coast listeners, you can't watch Raw live historically.
Right.
And so this is really a new world for WWE in that the show will be live for everybody across the globe. And no matter how weird of a time it may be, that is a bit of a new world.
Totally.
And that is good for WWE. That is just the future of television. But there is not much stuff. There are not many weekly shows that go global live every week. And that is WWE moving into the future here. Remember, pro wrestling was one of the first television shows. They pioneered pay-per-view. They pioneered online streaming with the WWE Network. They've really been at the forefront of a lot of this stuff. And I think they are doing that here again with Netflix. And whatever you think of all the corporate mumbo jumbo, yada, 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 it is very much changing how WWE is consumed live for most of the world. And that is a new world for them and for television.
I do wonder what the viewing habits of West Coast fans are going to be like, because now they're in our hell, right? Where we want to watch Monday Night Football live. We want to watch Raw live. It's very difficult to do that. On the West Coast, in many cases, you didn't have a choice. You could watch Monday Night Football live, and then it would end. You'd say, oh, now I can watch Raw. Maybe I'll miss 30 minutes, but I can fast forward through the commercials and catch right up. And you're naturally on a delay. So that's the life that you lived, right? Now they have to live our hell. Where like they're going to get home from work if they're lucky, right? To get home from work by 5:30 and immediately have the ability to watch Raw and Monday Night Football at the same time during the fall, during the season. But otherwise, do they want to watch Raw at 6 o'clock, let's say, or 5:30 once they get home from work?
They don't have
First
to.
thing. I know they don't have to, but I'm curious what the viewing habits are going to be. Are they going to do that? Or are they going to say, you know what? No, it's 8 o'clock. That's the time I watch Raw. I just still won't go on social media and I'll start it at 8 or 7 or, whatever the case. So I am curious how many people are actually going to watch live in the United States on the West Coast and how many are still going to wait and watch it on delay.
Yeah, it's totally different. Like, I do think this was a good move for WWE, even if like you think maybe it turned out to be undervalued. But this is Netflix. Yeah. This is truly Netflix going big on live sports and entertainment for the first time. They've done one-offs here and there. You'll do a fight, you'll do a football game, you'll do a show. And I know WWE is producing this, much like CBS produced the NFL games. But if this works, all of sports is going to want to get in on this as well. And it's going to be like this WWE deal could change the way sports and Netflix and streaming work together.
WWE they've regularly been at the forefront of this stuff. I mean, MLB TV was really the first sports streamer, but WWE Network was next, and they really platformed themselves off of, I think it was called MLB AM, Advanced Media. I think they used a lot of that to help create the WWE Network. And when they did those promotions, we made fun of it at the time, the $9.99 and all that shit. It hit, and people subscribed, and everyone else said, wow, this is actually possible. And you haven't just seen it with sports. You've seen every major network and, production kind of company, depending on, how you want to categorize them, jump into streaming after WWE. And you're going to see many leagues. Now, WWE is not the first league or sport to go all streaming. MLS did it with Apple TV, but WWE is the first, I believe, where they're part of the package. It's not an additional cost. And it is going to be really interesting.
Also, Netflix is a billion times bigger than Apple TV.
Oh, a billion times bigger. Yeah, it's hugely different. But that's when I go back to, and maybe we can wrap the show on this, because you mentioned my issue with the deal that they signed. And this is why I've asked WWE numerous times to speak to Nick Khan, Paul Levesque, someone from the business side, because I really want them to explain this to me. But, they did get a bump for Raw, a pretty significant bump to go over to Netflix. It's a 5-year deal with an option for another 5 years. So it's in totality a 10-year, $5 billion deal. The first 5 being at $500 million each makes sense. They're dipping their toe into Netflix. They're thinking that they're going to grow their audience, especially internationally. But it's not just Raw that they're paying for, where if that dollar amount was just for Raw, that would have been a really nice increase. But it's Raw and international rights in all of these countries. So that really reduces the amount of bump that WWE got for a prime product. It's singularly most prime product. So they took like a discount there. And then Netflix, after 2 years, let's say, or whatever time, can just go, yeah, this is doing great. We're going to extend it for 5 more years. You know how much TV rights are going to continue going up most likely 5 years from now? The deal's going to look even worse then. Now, between now and then, all the premium live events are going to end with Peacock, and Peacock will have the option to renew that. It sure feels like WWE is just going to move everything over to Netflix. Perhaps when that happens, Netflix makes them whole and says, okay, we'll overpay a little bit for this because of the extra 5 years. But from a business standpoint, offering Netflix $500 million per year for 10 years, with it being their own option to extend and have that include international rights, it just seems like WWE, I don't want to say they're taking pennies on the dollar, but it seems like they're taking, 87 cents on the dollar for this product when they could have gotten a lot more. And I feel the exact same way, Chris, about NXT, and you understand this better because it's on the CW, but NXT is their number one rated show, and they're paying almost nothing for it comparative to what that rating provides. You look at what Turner or Warner Brothers Discovery is paying for the entirety of AEW, but specifically, even if you narrow it down to just AEW Dynamite, they're doing almost identical ratings, and they're paying like twice as much just for that show. So I still don't understand what WWE did. These are really smart business people who negotiate TV deals. They do things I could never do. I still want someone, though, to explain to me how this financially was a good deal for WWE, because I find it really hard to believe that international viewership increasing and potentially that leading to increased live event revenue would be worth giving up a couple $100 million a year in TV rights. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah, no, that's a key point because they tout the number in the years, but you had to kind of pay attention to realize this includes international pay-per-views, which was a really big deal.
Yeah.
To get that.
And so, TV, international TV and pay-per-views, all of it.
It's the international part of it that you're not sure about the part of the deal. Now, wrestling, the ad market is not as good as it is for other actual sports and entertainment. For whatever reason, wrestling fans will buy wrestling things, but they often won't buy anything else.
True.
So it's why they haven't been able to sell as good of advertisement, which is why the value of their TV contracts is not what it is relative to things that have similar viewership. Very curious to see how it goes. Like you said, but they are all in here, and if this works the way Netflix wants it to, Netflix is going to have a pretty good deal. And maybe WWE feels like, look, streaming is going to consolidate at some point. Netflix is the place you want to be. They're the big dog. We get in early. We've got a relationship just like with Saudi Arabia and all this kind of stuff. I don't know. But yes, it's important to, when they do all the touting of how amazing numbers are and this and that and yada, 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 that there is more context behind that. But ultimately, it is a big time change for WWE moving into the future of television.
Absolutely. All right. Well, look, that wraps up a in-depth episode of the Getting Over Wrestling podcast. We went longer and later than I ever would have expected, but this was a big night for WWE. I did not mention it earlier on the show, so let me state right here that you can follow us in two places on social media. First, at Getting Overcast on Twitter, and then at Getting Over on Blue Sky. Episode drops, news, analysis, highlights, all of that good stuff. You can also send questions and comments for the show. I know we didn't get to them really here. Our next WWE episode is going to be Tuesday, the following week, and we will round up questions, comments, theories, anything that you've sent us that we feel is still applicable or that you send us through the end of the week. And certainly SmackDown is Friday. We will wrap all of that up and discuss it for you on our next WWE episode on Tuesday, the 14th. But between now and then, on Wednesday, we will have your 2024 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
24 awards, 4 times as many finalists. Silver King, Vintage, breaking them all down, signature, Getting Over style. I promise you will enjoy your time when you listen to our performance enhancing audio. That is the 2024 Getting Over Awards, aka
the Meaties.
If you missed our analysis of WWE SmackDown, that podcast is waiting for you in the episode feed. If you missed our 2024 year in review, that is also waiting for you. Make sure you subscribe to the Getting Over Wrestling podcast wherever you listen to podcasts. We're also available on YouTube at Getting Overcast. On the way out, please also remember that this show
It's all about Defy.
So head over to Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Leave a 5-star rating on Apple. Take a little extra time. Leave a 5-star written review. If you do, we'll read it live right here on the show. And don't forget,
I happen to love the number 5.
I hope you do as well. $5 a month, $50 for the entire year. You can become an official Getting Overhead. Visit buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Sign up. You'll get bonus audio, the fastest 5 minutes in professional wrestling, instant reactions to every major show, exclusive news analysis posts every single week. Again, buymeacoffee.com/gettingover. Getting Over. Thank you all for spending this time with us, wrapping up the debut episode of Raw on Netflix. Plenty of performance-enhancing audio coming to your ear holes through the end of 2025. For Vintage Chris Vanini, this is the Silver King, Adam Silverstein, signing off and leaving you with just 3 final words. Bye for now.